Over into the hands of Mr. Butler.
Mr. Chairman, I think you got a copy of actually our PowerPoint presentation back in May. We cleaned it up a little bit. And at this point in time, really what I think we're looking for is maybe an up or down vote on each one of these items. And this, again, this is the list of items that the Budget Review Committee had worked up. Not necessarily everyone on that committee agree with everything on this list, but we're trying to come up with a list of things that we could possibly put in front of you guys as options for you to consider. We're looking at, the latest thing we got out of the property appraiser's office was about a 6% reduction in property values. There's appears to be some will on the board to not raise millage. And if you don't raise millage, that means we got to cut about 6% of the budget. So we're looking somewhere around $600,000 we either got to make up or cut out of the budget. And when we get done today, we have to go through these items. There will still be more work to do. We know, the committee knows you can't do all of these. You probably won't be able to do most of these. But if we could go through each one of those and these you can live with, we'll go ahead and work on the budget again. At the future budget meeting, we have new numbers. And if you want to, Mr. Chairman, we'll go through these.
Mr. Buck, well, what you're wanting today then is a vote from each line item from this?
Yeah.
Vote from the board, that gives you direction, you'll know what you have to work on, what you want at the end of the day.
Yes, sir. Well, 'cause we have some deadlines on one or two of these that
Okay.
if you decide you want to go with them, we got to really get up and going on them.
Okay.
I think if we give them up and down vote too, they still got time to work on this thing, but I think it gives them direction.
The first item is on the list, increased tipping fees. And we threw this number out, and we threw it out just to get some discussion on it. Today, you charge $35 a ton tipping fee at landfill. Landfill costs you a lot more than what we collect at landfill. We estimated this year we're going to take in $115,000. We doubled that number to 70, which is about what it costs to run the landfill. But if you were to double your tipping fees to $70 a ton, you'd pick up another $115,000. But just for the board's consideration.
Question, Mr. Chairman, Mayor. Mr. Butler, what does Bay County charge per ton? Joe, do you know?
I don't know what their increase is going to be. Right now, they charge $42.50.
I think Franklin, Calhoun, somewhere in the neighborhood of 47 and that type of thing. And that's what, that's what I think too. I think that obviously the 35 does not pay for the landfill. And we've got to gradually increase that somewhere. I'm not in support of going to $70 a ton. Here's what I would support. I would support going to an average of what Calhoun and the Franklins charge. And here's one thing that I think that we need to do too. We don't restrict any, from Mexico Beach or Bay County or anywhere else coming into our landfill. And our taxpayers are footing the bill of extra costs for out-of-county folks coming to the landfill. So I don't know how difficult it will be to implement, but I think that we ought to consider going to $70 a ton, which is the actual cost for out-of-county. And, if somebody, just say somebody's building something on some property in Bay County, and to save money, instead of going to Bay County landfill at $42 a ton, they come down, it might be worth their while to come to Gulf County and pay $35 a ton. So I think at the end of the day, we need to charge out-of-county residents that aren't paying our no ad valorem tax dollars into the landfill, operational landfill. We ought to charge them the $70 a ton. So I think that's kind of what I would propose, and let the committee take a look at that and come back with that as far as,
Put that in the motion, Mr. Yeager.
All right. So move to proceed to do the average of the Calhoun and Franklin counties as far as the tipping fees at the landfill, and to do a $70 charge for out-of-county.
Second.
Motion, we got a motion by Mr. Yeager, a second by Mr. Michael Moore. And motion, any objections? No objection, motion passed.
Mr. Chair, second item.
4-0, motion passed 4-0.
Second item, 5-cent local option gas sales tax. This is the second local option that law allows you to impose. You have another 5 pennies on a gallon you could impose, and it's on the list as potential revenue. If you were to do it, this year you could pick up about $140,000.
Gentlemen, may I respond to that, gentlemen?
Yes.
Let me tell you, we can't even think about that.
Agree.
Gas prices is the whole problem now in the whole nation. My motion is to deny that.
I'll second that.
We got a motion by Mr. McLemore, second by Mr. Yeager.
In discussion, I think at some point that, we need to do a comprehensive review of our public works and of our roadways and the needs of our roadways and those type things. At some point, you may want to come back and do another 1 penny or 2 pennies to do some of this funding. However, at this time, I can't support that.
Motion passed, 4-0.
Okay, next item. EMS, Houston's here. He can elaborate better than I can on it. But we make runs to Mexico Beach, numerous runs to Mexico Beach. And what we're proposing here is, and what we'd like to have would be a vote of the board to allow us to make contact with Bay County and or Bay Ambulance to ask them for us to go into Mexico Beach. We're losing money in the ambulance system. But if we make the runs to Mexico Beach, for them to give us, we propose here $30,000 a year, plus we keep all receipts from the runs, from those runs we pick up in Mexico Beach.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Motion by Mr. McLemore.
Second.
Second by Mr.
Question, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, Mr. Whitfield, would you implement what we've got coming up this week?
Well, right now, last year we run 109 calls at Mexico Beach. We've billed out something like 90, this is just rough figures I'm trying to remember. Billed out something like 97,000, we actually collected in the 20s. Ward and myself are meeting with EMS director at Bay Camp Bay EMS and his supervisor Thursday at 4 o'clock.
Yeah, 4 o'clock.
And try to work out some compensation for this. They've got several choices. If they try to do it themselves, it's going to cost them $300,000 to $350,000 to put a truck out there. So they come out considerably ahead if they went ahead and compensated us. Otherwise, I think we probably need to pull out if they don't want to do that.
We're going to try to negotiate with them, give them some options, and put it out on the table and let them go and see. But we probably, since '74, been providing them with this service. And, they've grown, and we've grown, and it's time we got some compensation for it. But anyway, we're going to meet Thursday at 4 o'clock.
Yes. If they don't want to do that, we can always just take in Mexico Beach for Gulf Canyon instead of
Yeah.
Bay.
So did we get,
The gals.
We got a motion by Mr. McLemore. We got a second by Mr. Yeager. Any opposed? No opposed, motion passed, 4-0.
I apologize, Mr. Vice Chairman. My foot is killing me. Hobbled.
I'm with you.
I'm gonna
Good to
claim,
see you.
I'm gonna claim sickness. All right, where are we?
At this time, we're gonna put it back in the hands of Mr. Reed.
Thank you, sir.
Dry run fees, Mr. Butler's running it.
Okay. All right, we'll continue. We're on the Mexico Beach payments, is that correct?
Right. No, that's done.
dry run
That
fees?
one, the next
We
one.
on the dry run.
On the dry runs?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, this is the dry run fees. We have plugged in $4,250. That's a nominal amount of money plugging in. But our desire would be to achieve something else beside $4,250. We have a lot of people that call the ambulance just getting blood pressure checked. And you got a paramedic EMT and a $500,000 truck, and we get no money for it. So if we were to charge like $75 a run, and I'm throwing that out, Houston can say better what it should be, $75 a run, our desire would be that a lot of people would quit calling And because a lot of times when you call and you gotta make a long run, you gotta have backup, cover that truck, it's out of pocket. And it may be a real call coming out while you got that truck tied up. And so the idea would be, and if anyone wants to get blood pressure checked, they can come out here to the ambulance station. If there's people there, they can get it checked anytime.
That was going to be my point. I mean, if somebody wants to get their blood pressure checked or feel a little bit bad and just want somebody to look at them, they can always just come to the
We
the
would have
ambulance
parameters
station.
on this, where
Yeah.
if a family member called and the patient didn't know they called and didn't want an ambulance, that would be a charge on it. But if that patient calls or a family calls because the patient says call just to get a vital checked, then we need to go ahead and get some compensation. We're not looking at driving fees for going out and doing public assistance like helping someone off the floor. We still want to do that kind of stuff, but the people that's abusing it and just calling to get their blood pressure checked, don't want to drive up and get it checked. We want to be covered a little bit.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Got a motion, Mr. McLemore, second, Commissioner Yeager. I just have a comment from I guess from an enforcement standpoint when you write the policy. You know, because a lot of people, when they're making a medical decision, are not sure, you know, I mean, if you feel something in your chest or you feel your left arm tightening or whatever, when you make that call, if it's warranted or not, and I realize you know someone who's abusing it when you've gone out there 37 times, but for the general public, how will that be clear, number one? And then number two, what will be our collection process if, you know, and explaining that to them? Is it almost like when you go to the hospital with, you know, your billing clerk, they're going to tell you that, you know, you're going to be billed for this? I mean, how are you going to move through that part of it?
Well, we're still going to have to work out some of that with EMS consultants, but we'll probably have a form where they would be advised that if you deny transport, you just sign this form, you $75. But it's going to be kind of at the discretion of the medic that goes out there to look at the whole situation, decide, is this a dry run feed process, or do we need to do it as a community service?
Well, I mean, and I'm in total agreement with the concept of what you're saying, and I have no issue with it, but I think it doesn't, I hear what you're saying, but I think leaving it to the discretion of the medic is going to be a little troublesome for us in a collections process, and, you know, potentially into a legal area as well. My comment is it needs to be clear that if you are called at the discretion, I would rather have, for example, if that policy, number one, we need a policy, but I would say that the medic reports to you that I've gone to Bill Williams's house, you know, the last week 3 times to get his blood pressure checked. I would like for you to initiate those pay, and you make the decision so you could come to the board and defend it. Then I think we have to have a very robust collections process on how we're going to go after those monies. But then in the upfront, I'd like to see it advertised, you know, talk about it, us talk about it, because it's going to be very unclear to the general public. Okay? All right.
I just like to make a comment. I wouldn't want somebody worrying about paying $75 who need a ambulance and won't call it because they're concerned about the $75. I'm looking at that part of it. I mean,
Good point.
I mean, you sitting at the house and you know you're not feeling well, but you making the decision to either call the ambulance because you know you're gonna have to pay $75.
We're not looking at that type call. We're looking at the actual call where when you walk in the door, they say, I don't need an ambulance, I just want my blood pressure checked.
But he has a good point. I mean, some people will make that decision not because that's what you would do. It's that perception. That's why we've got so many people that go to the emergency room versus, you know, looking at lower levels of care because they know federal law dictates they have to be seen there. So I think we don't want to do an inverted scenario. So I think I'm 100% supportive. I just want to be educated and community oriented because he has a good point on that. All right, we have a motion.
Chairman, just a minute. Let me implement something on that. We have, back when Mr. Whitfield here, we have numerous times where patient refuses to be transported. Now, the ambulance service was called, it responded, and then the patient refuses to be transported. Now, things of that nature is where that would fall into these parameters. Am I
No,
correct
that's
there?
federal law.
Not particularly.
They're protected under federal law to refuse medical treatment. You know, if somebody comes.
Transport.
This situation is gonna be covered if the patient actually calls us to just come and check something knowing he's not gonna go.
Oh,
In
okay.
other words, I just want my blood pressure checked, and we're getting a lot of that.
I know you are.
mean,
I
we drive
monitor
20
them.
miles to check a blood pressure.
Guys, I don't think this is unusual either. I think that most probably providers have this dry run fee, so I don't think it's unusual. I think it's needed, and there's going to be some discretion that allows
And we can
EMS
set
to
it up
make
where
those.
We can see it, it's being abused before we start initiating it.
Okay, we got a motion and a
We'll
second.
work on that.
Mr. Chairman, if I can, I'll work with Mr. Whitfield too on policy to present
You understand my concern?
to you. And I'll work with him and try to present something to you so it's clear to the public too, so at least there's a baseline of what you all are looking for in terms of interpreting that each time you have a driver.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on this particular line item. Any opposition? Motion carries 5-0. We'll go to the next one.
Mr. Chair, the EMS fees, we're still working on those. We'll come back to you if the board will agree that we can look at the surrounding area and try to get our ambulance fees, transport fees in line with everybody else. We have reason to believe we're low, and it could help that budget. The next item is.
Let me make a real quick point on that. We had talked about the provider, your payer mix, and your collection percentages. Where are you now on
Right now, we're
collection?
right on the top edge of Medicare and Medicaid. I mean, we can't get any more out of that. The only ones we're gonna be able to get increased fees on would be the private insurances. Now, when we do that, it could show more of a deficit or a lack of pay because, say you bill 1,000, well, we increase from 900 to 1,200. And you send that to Medicare, they just gonna pay us that amount. So it could wind up in the long run that you see more being charged out, but you're also gonna be seeing more collected.
Well, in the medical model, and you certainly know this, but when you look at cost or charges, there's a big difference. So if we go and raise it $200, and that sounds good, and we think we're going to collect something, that's not actually real. So I think we just need to be understanding of cost and charges.
Right, what's
Okay,
collected, what's being collected.
okay. So you'll come back with that. All right, go ahead, Mr. Butler.
Possibility of increasing building department fees. The building official, he feels we can probably add $25,000 if we were to get our fees in line with others. Gulf County is much lower than the city of Port St. Joe and lower than surrounding counties. But if we could come back to you with a recommended fee schedule, at some point in time, we could probably pick up $25,000. We have a $250,000 budget, we're collecting $100,000. So we're losing money in the building.
Thoughts of the board?
I agree that we need to review. It's been a long time since we've increased those fees. You know, it's getting close to time to do that, and I think once you review the surrounding counties, you get an average of what everybody's paying anyway. Obviously, the city of Port St. Joe is paying quite a bit more than what they pay in the county. So I think let's review the fees and let them come back with a recommendation.
You have to understand something too now, dealing with the building inspectors, the city of Port St. Joe got a private contractor who come in, so he must charge a little bit more. But our building inspector, the taxpayers pay his salary. I mean, he takes in his services, charges for what he's doing, but then again, a private versus government is two different. Look at that.
I think
But you're not just going to look at the city of Port St. Joe. You're going to look in Franklin County and Liberty County.
Probably actually look at everyone but the city of Port St. Joe.
Okay,
Sound
makes
like
me
a
feel
woman.
better. Okay, board have any problems with that?
No.
All right.
Okay. Those we just talked about, that's under revenue. The next group is under budget increases. And mainly just to make a point, the next item would decrease coverage for property casualty insurance. Our insurance company this year, for no additional coverage, has jacked our rate up $62,000. And in order for you to hold the line, we would need to go in and cut coverage by that amount of money, $62,000. Today, if we had a storm come through and you had picnic shelters and one thing or another in the parks damaged, you'd get paid for them. But if the board agrees for us to cut the insurance back down to the current level, current expenditure, you're going to lose a lot of coverage. But just for conversation or just to make a point, you're going to see this number twice. It's later on down in another category. But the insurance is going up. We can either pay the increased rate or we can cut the coverage. So our the Budget Review Committee is recommending we cut coverage.
So moved to cut coverage.
Second.
We have a motion, Commissioner McLemore, second Commissioner Yeager. Any opposition?
Let's say too, the insurance committee want to make it plain because it's happened in the past. When something does happen, understand that we're dumbing down the insurance. This is covering the big stuff. It's not covering any of the little stuff. So don't be surprised if, when we get a storm, it doesn't pay for the boardwalk overs and the dune walkovers and the things. That's the cost we're paying for saving this money.
We'll get that from FEMA.
Yeah.
But what you also have said, because we've been obviously burned in my district before with the pipe. I mean, I never anticipated pipe being, a non-covered event, but it cost the county over $200,000 not having that coverage. I mean, you obviously bring up a very good point. The way I understood it was that you were going to have the items that were deleted from our inventory or not covered were going to be the smaller items that we would have to cover on our own. So we're not talking, like not only a FEMA, but of a fire or a flood or something atypical happens. We are trying to minimize what we're cutting, correct?
Well, Mr. Chairman, may I just a minute? Well, being on the insurance committee, we have so many items. We have a $5,000 deductible. Is that correct?
Yes.
And we have so many items on there that's under the $5,000 that we're carrying insurance, so we can automatically remove those. And I know I looked at, I think it's over 64. I was going down checking that we could just, as an example, not being any laughter, but we've got a little old chicken coop insured over there, and the sheriff says he thinks it's out there. We use it for training. Chicken coop. $100 item, and we've got it insured. We don't, anything under this 5,000, we're going to go through and take off.
Okay.
That'll help.
We had a motion and a second on that, didn't we?
Yep.
All right, any opposition? Motion carries 5-0.
We got a notice from Progress Energy that utility rates are increasing, electricity is increasing this coming year by 10%. We added $20,000 to the line to pay for that. And if other utilities, gas, water, sewer were to increase, this does not include that. This only includes electricity. Medicaid, this is the number we plugged in. The new numbers for Medicaid, it's not we need a vote on it. We got to pay what we got to pay. It is what it is. The additional monies we're going to have to pay into Medicaid this year.
For the public's benefit, can you give that number? None of the increase. This isn't the overall number, but this
Medicaid, $82,856. This is a new expenditure that we haven't had in the past. The next item is retirement. We're plugging in, the legislature changed the retirement rate from year to year. It has never, any 2 years, the same rate. But we're plugging in another $35,000 to compensate for retirement rate changes. IT department. We have an IT department without any additional revenue above and beyond salaries. And this plugs in $10,000. And it would be great. It'd give some tools to give us the ability to buy some things. It's a brand new $10,000, and you can do or not do. But all of those together, that's $210,000 worth of budget increases that we above and beyond the current year.
You want us to keep moving on these votes, correct, if it's necessary?
Well, if you say yes on that 10,000, we'll plug it in.
Here's what I would say. I would say for the time being, let's leave the 10,000 in. If we're getting down to the wire and we're getting close and we need another 10 grand, this may be one of those items that goes away. We'll leave it plugged in. As far as I'm concerned, we can leave it plugged in for time being.
Okay.
Good.
Board comfortable with that?
Yes.
Okay.
I am.
Go ahead, Mr. Bowler.
Next is opportunities for budget decreases. This is always on the list for the Budget Review Committee. In agreement with the City of Port St. Joe to stand down at least a year on DRA to save the city and the county about $150,000 apiece for the year. If the board wanted us to pursue that, we would.
This has been an issue that we've addressed each time, and the city has never wanted to do it. I don't foresee that they will want to do it anyway. Don, I think a phone call to Jim to just suggest is no problem with. But I don't foresee that they would want to defer it for a year. They never have before.
Let me go on record saying I oppose that.
That you oppose asking to decrease, or you just oppose the?
Giving them the $153,000.
Yeah.
Okay, so on this particular line item, you're just going to make the call. I agree with Commissioner Yeager. I mean, it benefits them as well in their budget reduction. And, we could look at, not just deleting this year, but back ending it, basically on the, where are we on that 20-year cycle with them? On that?
Forever.
I think it started about 1990.
Okay. So, I think I think it's worth a phone call, but I agree with him. I don't think it's going to happen. All right, let's keep moving.
We won't be here when it pays off.
Yeah.
The next item, discontinue the coastal fitness program. There's $3,000 cut there. I think in our budget review committee, the sheriff indicated that since his men use it, that he'd pick it up. But our recommendation is to the board to cut out of the board's budget.
Wishes of the board?
So moved.
Got a motion, Commissioner McLemore.
Second, Mr. Chairman.
Second, Mr. McDaniels. I have to abstain. Motion carries 4-0 with the one abstention.
Next item is EDC. We recommend a $16,600 cut. This is 1/5 of the $83,000 that the board gave for the current year. And the plan was that over a period of 5 years that eventually we'd wean them off. So this would be a $16,600 cut.
So moved to cut.
Hold on, if I can make a comment, if you will, because I think this is important. I talked with Mr. Butler. In our last meeting, we talked about making sure that the city had paid their portion of the interlocal agreement with it. And I said for the clerk to withhold that check until that was verified. Barry came to the podium, I guess, and said it had been, but he was incorrect with the actual dollar amount. It's my understanding that the clerk has written that check. Is that correct?
If we did, it was just a day or two ago.
Okay, well, what I need, this is a very important part, because this dollar amount, what we need to do is possibly look at, because if we're still holding their fourth quarter side out, I think we need to hold that until that money is paid. So I don't know who needs to handle this, but we're getting confused on what the city commitment is and what we're doing and when we're issuing checks. And I want to make sure that the city follows that interlocal agreement. Mr. Turner, do you have anything on how we can make sure this happens?
Well, one of the things I can do is I can get a copy of that interlocal to Mr. Sellers, so he knows the number. I think he might have had the numbers wrong. They did make a contribution, just wasn't the full amount under the interlocal. So right now they're short of that number. I'll get a copy of that to Mr. Sellers. And like I said, going forward on a quarterly basis, we can just verify that the contribution's being matched according to that interlocal.
And Mr. McLemore, what I was asked for the whole, and I appreciate your courtesy on it, was, definitely approving the 16 cut that we talked about, but also withholding fourth quarter payment to them until that number is verified, so that that's still available to us to rectify that.
Okay, that's good. You want me to put that, include that into my motion?
Yes, sir.
Okay, it's included.
All right. Got a motion, Mr. McLemore?
I second that motion.
Second, Commissioner Smiley. Any opposition? Motion carries 5-0.
Mr. Chairman, this is more for your information. The next one, Public Works attrition losses. We've had 3 people in Public Works, one last fall, one in January, one in May, retire, and no plans to put those back on. This is going to save you a minimum of $150,000 that would be cut from that budget. And like I said, no intent to putting those back on. As always, the Budget Review Committee start picking up debris from right away. And we think we have plugged in a nominal amount of money. We think it could probably be a lot larger than this, but you could save $50,000 by not allowing people to put junk on the right of way.
Can I comment on that, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
I think that is one of the few excellent services that we have in the county, and I will not support that going away with it.
We always bring this up because it is an expense, and we are a coastal county. Everybody likes to see the roadsides picked up. We do have a problem with a number of different things, and one of those things is people, when they can put yard clippings out on the right-of-way. They also put couches, TVs, wash machines, and everything else, especially when your landfill fees are going up. I don't know if we need to, at some point, and I know it's election year, but we got to make hard decisions up here. I think you need to, at some point, take a look again at doing mandatory garbage pickup and letting that private company take care of roadside pickup too. And if you do that, it's going to save you an awful lot of problems and an awful lot of headaches. And I know that, mandatory pickup is not always a popular thing, but if you want to fix the problem, that's the way you fix it.
Mr. Yeager, I'm 100% with you. I remember when I first got elected, probably 80% of my calls were delivering dirt. And that was a hard decision with this board of saying, no, we're not going to do it. And finally, we stopped doing it. We don't get any of those calls anymore, and it saved this county tons and tons of money and resources. The tipping fees and the things that I apologize that I missed, but the Senator, that will never work as long as people can put everything that you talked about on the side of the road for free, but we're going to charge them when we go to the landfill. So it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out, I think I'll just watch TV and put it outside and let the county come get it. I think two things need to happen. One, and you and I have fought for it historically, but we need mandatory garbage pickup. That is an absolute issue. We talked about in the 98 corridor, additional need for services. We could save our citizens money. Waste Management was willing to significantly lower the bill.
Absolutely.
Which we heard in our last meeting. What was the increase, Lynn? 6%, 5%? Where are they going up?
6.1 or 2.
So we could renegotiate. I mean, Commissioner McLemore has a great point, but the cost of that service is so exuberant. It goes back to what I said to Houston about cost or charges. It doesn't matter what we charge the tipping fees. If people aren't going to use it and they're going to put it on the side of the road, we're kind of playing with this is a chemistry equation. You got to balance on both ends. But anyway, I agree with you 100%. If you want to make that, I think it needs to be in a two-form motion, one being mandatory pickup and we negotiate in the process. Number two is that we stop that. That's the only way we're going to fix that problem.
Yeah, I think what the direction I'd like to give is for that budget committee to come back with a recommendation for mandatory garbage pickup along with roadside pickup and how to proceed with that. It may be that we can extend the contract of the present provider, or it may be that we need to go out for an RFQ, because I tell you, you can save. This is going to be, at the end of the day, when people see their garbage bill, they're going to say, oh, God, why didn't we do this, before? I think that at the end of the day, you're going to get your garbage pickup and you're going to get roadside pickup for probably less than what you're paying right now. Calhoun County has mandatory pickup. Well, we're behind the times, guys, with this thing.
Can I comment on that?
We need to proceed. Sure.
And Mr. Jerry, I don't disagree with you. Since you're trying to combine both of them, that makes it a lot easier for me. One of my biggest issues with mandatory, when you say mandatory, I look at that poor 80 or 90-year-old lady out there who's on a fixed income, and now we're going to make her pay a $20 a month bill for one little baggage of garbage, and that decides whether she buys her medicine that month or not. And that's the problem that I have. But I think with the approach that you're asking the board to take on that may be something that could be worked out through the contract.
I think so. I think so. I think when there's hardship cases, we can figure that out. Yeah. And this is the way to go. And like I said, I know it's a bad time. It's election year, and people don't like it. But at the end of the day, it's the right thing to do, and we need to proceed with this.
We'll look at it.
Well, why don't, if you will, Mr. Yeager, make the motion that we go mandatory, negotiate a mandatory garbage pickup with negotiations with Waste Management, including obviously the component that you're speaking of, because that's come up before, protecting our seniors, or our disadvantaged, et cetera. But I think we can save a lot of money, and I think that $50,000 figure is a very moderate. I think we can save a lot of money.
Mr. Chairman, now, excuse me, the way you just put that, there's no way I can support that.
Okay, well, tell me how you want it.
What I'd like to do is make the motion for Mr. Butler and the attorney to sit down with the contractors, give us some facts. Don't sit there and tell me, say, well, maybe we can help this old lady. Let me see it.
I think that's the way to proceed. Let the committee come back and give us the recommendation that, I think at the end of the day, the majority of us can support. So I'll put that in the form of a motion to put it back to the committee to do mandatory garbage pickup along with roadside pickup, and to come back with a recommendation whether to go back out for the RFQ if we can by the contract, or whether, you just negotiate down, because there were some numbers in that previous deal that saved like $5 or $6 a month for our taxpayer.
And Mr. McLemore has a good point. Not only can we see those numbers, but we can also see, like when in your negotiations, they like long-term contracts. I'd like to see a 2 or 3 projection. I realize there's cost indexes and things, but a lot of times we get that deal, it saves us a lot of money. Next year, they go up 8%. So if we can see what that cost savings would be, how they would deal with the seniors, and then that cost outlay, I think that would answer all your questions.
And I still don't like your motion.
Amend it. If you got a way to amend it.
I'd put a motion on the table to let the committee go out and review mandatory garbage pickup.
Let me interject too.
Yes, sir.
On this. Mr. Danford, you and I have had numerous discussions on this issue. When it originally was re-implemented, it had restrictions, to my knowledge. Nothing, I don't think it was a vote on it, but I see it every day. It's out of hand. It's out of hand. Our trucks are, when we first brought this back up, we had a program where you would call in, and when the truck was in a certain area, it would work that area, and that would be a little savings. But now then, I see the truck, it may be in the north end of the county this morning, here this afternoon, back in the north end 3 hours later. It just gets abused. The system is being abused. Now, the picking up is good, but if it had some control, and where the Public Works controlled it, and we implemented the program, it might work. But the way it is right now, it's costing us. I'm telling you it is. I see it every day. Every day I see it.
I think you're right, and I think the private sector can handle it a lot better than we can. They're still going to have things that are put on that roadside that aren't
So may have to go get it.
We may have to go pick that up, because at the end of the day, you can't, on a lot of it, determine who put it out there. And so we may have to still pick up some of that type stuff, but it's not going to be anything close to what it's like now.
We could cut it in half, or 75%. That would be a great savings to us.
Commissioner Smiley?
Yes, the mandatory garbage pickup, at my business right now, I pay for a mandatory garbage pickup for lots of people, because they take and put their garbage, they come from the point, they come off the beaches and stuff, and they put their garbage in my garbage can.
Right. You're correct.
So I'm having to pay for mandatory garbage pickup for those guys. And I sit back and I pass by, and I see lots of people just go by and toss it over in the dumpster.
Right.
So, I mean.
This will fix that.
This will definitely fix it. And the end result were, and I don't remember the numbers, Mr. Butler, you may, but when Commissioner Yeager and I failed in this motion, a year or two ago, with mandatory, it took the current rates, it seemed like it was like a 10, 11% drop. Do you remember what those numbers were?
More than that.
It was more than that. And coupled with that, just to be real clear, really when you get the drop and when you put it on your tax bill, because we are the collector and the garbage service provider doesn't have to worry about bad debts because we're going to pay the bill. That's where you really get the savings. But I don't think that's what you're talking about right now. You're talking about it's mandatory and everybody pay their own bill.
Well, I think we can take a look at both of it, Don. I think at the end of the day, the board may not support putting it on the tax bill, but at the end of the day, if you look at the numbers that the contractor says, that if you put it on the tax bill, here's your number, or if you put it, just private pay or whatever, this is the number, you may at the end of the day, this board will take a look at that and make that decision then.
Well, and I agree. There's a couple of caveats. We talked about in our areas, particularly in the corridor, our problem is most of the folks are very responsible, but they may be ordering 1 can when they need 3 with all the tourists that they have, and that's what looks so terrible along my area of the beach and your area when folks aren't. So we've got a lot of different little twists that we may have to do in the corridor. But anyway, we've bounced back and forth. We've got it through. Do you want to make a motion?
Yeah, I still maintain the motion, just to give it to the committee. Let the committee look at the whole issue of all the concerns that this board has and come back with some scenarios that this board can proceed.
Well, I think the only problem I have with it is when we meet again, we're talking, you are right, we're coming to the end of the road with our budget, and we're talking about negotiations with Waste Management. That needs to be a high priority and start immediately. So the only thing I would say is y'all got to start that immediately, so we can get some kind of an idea.
Well, I think this is going to give them that authority because they're going to have to go sit down with the contractor to get those numbers.
Okay.
So this is going to give them that authority. It's just basically a review. We're not saying we're going to do any portion of it, but we're getting all the numbers from the committee and bringing them back.
All right,
So-
motion,
So
Commissioner Gallagher.
that's the motion. I guess we had a second.
I don't remember the second.
Second.
Got a second, Commissioner McDaniels. Any opposition?
Yes.
Motion carries 4-1. All right, go ahead, Mr. Butler.
Next item, your consideration. This year, the county has $25,000 in the recreation budget. That equates to about $5,000 per district. Not a whole lot of money, but the Budget Review Committee's recommendation is for those funds to come from TDC and for TDC to put that money in those parks where they lawfully can. Some parts they can't, some parts they can. Those just frequented by tourists. But recommendation is take the 25 from ad valorem and put it under TDC.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Got a motion, Mr. McLemore.
I'll second that. That's something that every county does. I second that.
Second, Commissioner Yeager. Any opposition? Motion carries 5-0.
Next item, since the property appraiser tells us we're having like a 6% decrease in property values, and we're probably going to decrease the entire budget by 6%. Recommendation is for the outside agencies, those that you don't have to fund, that you are funding, to cut those by 6%.
Gentlemen, I'd like to wait until we do this at the end of the day and see where we end up on our numbers.
You wanna
I
table
agree.
that? All right,
Motion.
we'll
Agree
table
with
that item and move on.
Okay. Next item is, again, on the list, Gulf County puts $110,000 a year into the library. This is a recommendation to you to cut that funding by $50,000.
Again, Jim, and I can't support that.
I can't support that myself.
So
I can't cut it. I mean, y'all do what you need to do, but
I want to table that
su-
till we get to outside, or do you want to make some adjustment to it? Or are you making any dollar line item? What do you want to do? What are the wishes of the board?
I'm not cutting the library unless it's an absolutely must.
I'm with you,
That's
Commissioner.
just bottom line.
So
All right, so you want to put that in the form of a motion? And
So
then we'll
move,
revisit?
so move not to cut it.
I second.
All right, we got a motion, Mr. McLemore, second, Commissioner Smiley. Any opposition?
Question. This is to not cut it at all?
Not cut it at all.
Well, the only question I have is that you talked to the earlier vote on the 6%, and this is an NGO like the others.
We can come back to the 6% at the
Okay,
end
you-
of the
so you
day.
just want to eliminate the 50,000, and then we'll come back and see about the 6%?
Right.
Okay, all right.
All right, any opposition? Motion carries 5-0.
Next item.
Ms. Mary, you don't have to talk.
That's the next two items. To do with CHIP monies. The law allows us to keep 10% of the $350,000 allocation each year for admin, and we're recommending several, from the clerk to a portion of our time and portion of Brett's time, because the amount of time he spends on SHIP and the audit, that SHIP program pay for the audit and the maximum up to $35,000 per year.
So move, Mr. Chairman.
second.
Got a motion, Mr. McLemore, second, Mr. Yeager. Any opposition? Motion carries 5-0.
Next item, did give you a copy of a letter that the mayor said we all sent, and we got it yesterday. You have a copy in front of you. But the Budget Review Committee is recommending that you cut $13,671 from the city of Wewall Parks and Recreation.
Can I comment on that?
Yes,
Mr.
sir.
Chairman? And I don't know if y'all have had time to actually read their letter here, but actually what it boils down to, the city of Wewall, they pay something like $112,000 a year for the park up there. Actually, 60% of those kids are from the county. And how can we go in there and cut that out? I can't, and I hope this board would choose not to, but we're talking $13,000.
Well, let's do this. Let's just table this for now, because I want to look at it a little bit closer too. I mean, the city of Port St. Joe's the same way. They have parks in the city that we don't fund, and they have about 60% probably that has outside the county kids coming in there.
That's correct, Mr. Yeager, and I hear you, but also look on your budget here. We do fund $153,000 a year down there.
Now, that goes to a different,
That's
that's a total different line
It's
item.
different, but it's
That's a
still-
mandate, we don't have any choice on.
It is different, but it still goes to the city.
Yeah, but that we have to do. I think my problem with it is what he just said with the city, that, you know, the other side, my understanding, Mr. McDaniels, is that you spoke to the city administrator and that he was okay with it when we brought this line item up. Is that not correct?
I spoke with him, I don't know, maybe a month ago on this, and his question was, just do what you have to do. That was the response I got from him, and here looking at a letter that, I saw this letter a week ago that you just got last night, along with this sheet here that we're going over. I saw this in this letter over a week ago at the City Hall. And there is some concern over it. I think we have a letter. I don't know if the board has it, but have a letter here. No, that's on another one. Where's the one on?
That's it.
They're all signed there. Yeah, here it is. Anyway, they threw some options out on the table yesterday morning. The city managers of City of Weaver Hitchcock, the fact that the city does up at Dead Lake Campground, they have to test once a month water, and they do that free of charge for the county. They don't bill the county any to do the testing for the water there at Dead Lakes Park. And other than that, we can just table this and hash it over again, like Commissioner Yeager said here, and come back on this. But my original meeting with them, well, just with I'm talking not with the Board of City Commissioners, but with Mr. Minshew was, well, whatever you got to do, you have to do. That's what he left me with.
But with the number of percentage of the county kids, same way with the city, that use those city parks,
Now,
it's hard. Jim. Well, and I know where Mr. McDaniel's fit to come. We have county parks that the city kids use also, but they have a Lake Atlas Park up there in the city that we hold county events on, county functions, whatever. So, I don't think, I think we need to go back and review it like Mr. Yeager's saying. Let's look at it before we make a final decision on it.
Well, the question I have for both of you, since it's more on your end, I mean, number one, we're talking about we don't provide that to the city of Port St. Joe, and I think you could argue those numbers back and forth. But the bigger issue is, what are they doing with $13,000? Because we already do tons of work. We send our prisoners, we do the work, we cut the grass. I mean, what are we paying for $13,000?
Okay, let me answer that, Mr. Chairman, because this is what you're not aware of. The actually does all the ground maintenance with the city parks. They have their own inmate labor crews. They fund was $111,000 that they put into that city park. I don't know of the county, Mr. McDaniel. Maybe every now and then they may get in a bind and need a little additional help, but I don't know of the county putting any money into the T.L. James Park. And we also have a county 4-H building on that park that they maintain and help us with. So I don't see the dollars that the county is losing with that park.
All right, we'll table it and then come back. I'd just like to know what $13,000 is being specifically spent for, because if you're spending $110,000 on it, I don't know what the city of Port St. Joe's budget is on it, but those same ball fields I played on, I was 7 years old, so I don't know where we are. All right, we'll move on.
Well, and let me say something while we're here. We obviously have sometimes strained relationships, with both cities, but we're all in the same boat. We're all, the county constituents are also city constituents, and we need to find a way to work together as much as we can and help provide each other with the things that we need to provide. That being said, we still need to make sure that, you know, what we're doing for one, we're doing for all.
I agree.
You know, and just, you know, figure that out. But I'm okay with tabling it and let me think about this a little bit more. And I'm sure when I table it, the mayor up there, Philip, probably give me a call and talk to me a little bit about it.
Well, let me throw something else out on this, checking again to see at Honeyville Park. City of Weaver-Hitchcock bills the county over $3,000 a year for water.
That's not true.
Well, that's what Mr. Minshew
No,
handed me.
that is, let me
Okay. if you
Let
can
me
clear it up,
kind
that'd
of
be
clear it
fine.
up for you, Mr. McDaniel,
All
on
right.
something that you don't know.
Okay, maybe I don't.
The $3,000 water bill that we received last year that you're talking about actually was when we were building the ball fields up there, and we put the sod down. The sod had to be watered. There was there was no way to water that sod without losing it except city water at that time. Now, we have replaced that city water or watering the field. We are actually coming off from a well there that's not city water. So that bill of $3,000 a year, I don't see it. You know, it should drop way down tremendously because all we'll be using is for the city water will be for the community center and the concession stand. Everything else will be coming off from well. So that $3,000 figure, no.
My question is the city of Weaver-Hitchcock charging county for water at Honeyville Park?
I'm sure they are.
They did in the
Apparently they
past.
are.
They did one time. I don't know if we're going to charge any more. Probably so, you know, but as far as it being a $3,000 or $4,000 bill, I can't see it.
Well, why don't we do this, since you're on the budget committee, Mr. McDowell, why don't you meet with them, see if you can't come up with some type of compromise, and maybe we can figure this thing out.
We'll do it. We'll do it. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Butler.
Next item, life management decrease. And we're recommending for this decrease of the entire budget, $5,476. This is for the EAP, Employee Assistance Program, that we had dealt with life management on. Last year, we only had 2 or 3 people take advantage of the program. The current year, last year, and in the current year, we had no one take advantage of it. So we recommend you don't fund it next year.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Got a motion, Mr.
Second.
Yeager. Second, Commissioner Smiley. Any discussion? Any opposition? Motion carries 5-0.
Next item is turn over the commodity program to a not-for-profit. That's a $19,574 line item for the commodity program for your consideration.
Can I
McLemore,
comment
would you
on
like
it?
to go ahead?
Yes, sir. Let me have this. In front of each and every one of you, you have a packet. It's 8 or 10 pages. I gave one to the clerk for its public review or whatever. I have Ms. Elaine Howell here today with me, who has been running this commodity program for years. Ms. Howell, would you come up? Because I'm going to need some help on this. Well,
Thank you,
gentlemen,
Let me explain the program to you a
let
little better.
me start, okay?
Okay, can I hand out this program?
Yes, ma'am.
This is a new,
Give one to the clerk too, please, ma'am.
Okay. Number one, let's do this. I kind of got irritated a little bit at the last meeting, but I didn't say anything. But it's time to address this. The comment was made that that was a $40,000 a year budget. Fellas, that's not true. Actually, that's actually with our budget of $19,000, it costs us $951 a year for fuel. It costs us $1,296 a year for the employment to go get that food. So approximately we have at the minimum a $22,000 a year budget there, not $40,000 right like was commented on. in 2011, now this is for one complete year, we bought food, and correct me, Miss Elaine, if I'm wrong with this. We bought food 17 cents a pound, 19 cents a pound, whatever. We bought 115,279 pounds. That's what we bought now in 1 year. Now, we also received 123,686 pounds of free food. So my point here is, yes, we bought 115,000 pounds, but they gave us 123,000 free. So where can you get a return like that? You can't nowhere in the nation. All right? In 2010, our poverty level in Gulf County was 2,593, or 19.5%. All right, 1,241 of those were children, or 14.2%. Our employment rate was at 7.2%. Jim, I could go on and on and on with this, and Miss Elaine, if we need to, we will. But for the return that we received for our money that's budgeted, I think it's a no-brainer. And excuse me, I will not sit here and go against this. And this is not a program, let me clear this up too. This is not a program that I run. This is the program that Ms. Howell runs with Gulf County Search and Rescue. This is a program that's open through the whole county, for the whole county. We actually have people that drive all the way from Port St. Joe up there to get those food. And I'll go back to the old lady with a certain amount of money for the income every month. I guarantee you that extra can of beans to her means a lot, gentlemen. And for us to sit here and cut that out, it is a wrong move. It's emotional for me, but it is a very good program. And for us to hand it down to somebody else, that was a comment that was made. It's on the chart here. I know the program and know how the program runs. A private organization cannot do what we do. And that goes right back to the city of Weewall. We use their building at free charge. We store their food at their electric cost at free charge. So I want to bring everything out on the table. And if you have any questions on this commodity program, thanks to Mr. Jim Garf, who attacked this program for political reasons. Mr. Jim, if you got a problem with Carmen, you come to Carmen, but don't attack this program and the other people. I'm done. I will not support this.
Mr. Chairman, may I?
Yes, sir.
Make a comment on that. It's been speculated, I think for political reasons, that I, as a commissioner in the north end of the county where it goes on, that I'm 100% opposed to this program. Well, let me go on record, I am not. I would like to see this program increased. A lot of the ifs, ands, and buts can be cleared up here today. But I'm in this business for watch the tax dollars for accountability, and that's what I was elected to do. I'm going to do that. It may offend someone. If it does, so be it. But the bottom line is there's so many speculations about this program. And if it's like a lot of things, if we could get the bottom line and everyone aware of what's taking place here, it may clear it up. But I would like to see this program increased. I would like to see more people involved in this program. Yes, it helps a lot of families. I'd like to see it help more families in this county. Yes, anybody in this county that live in this county, in Gulf County, has access to it. That includes the people in Port St. Joe, anywhere in the county. They have access to this, and they are accepted in this program. But I would like to see it answer a few questions on it. I'm going to take the opportunity and I'm gonna ride in this truck of ours up, and I want to see it. In order to fight something or defend it, I got to know the bottom lines, and there's a lot of lines I don't know about in this. A lot of things I can't get the correct answers on. I can't get the answers that we need to know for the people to defend it. But I am not opposed to this program. I would like to see it better. I just want to know the bottom lines on it.
May I ask this, Mr.
Yes, sir.
McDaniel? Have you actually came to Miss Elaine or Don Minshew and asked questions that you've had a particular reason that you need to know or whatever?
I've had yes, I have. I've had some discussions with Mr. Minshew over this, and we agree on some things we don't agree on, and some things that's in a gray area there that need to clear it up. But as far as sitting down with Miss Lane here, no, other than I've only been down to the program, I steer clear of it 2 times as an elected official. And on the commodity days, I talk after the days, but as far as going down on the commodity days, no, I don't go
Mr.
down.
McDaniel, and you've helped me out with this issue
Sure.
before with the commodity program. We needed an inmate labor crew. That my crew was tied up. Mr. McDaniel's seen his crew down there. But what I would ask from you, Mr. McDaniel, and all the other commissioners, if you have questions with this commodity program or whatever, get involved. Come up there. Work with Miss Elaine. And then you'll know. That's all I would ask. You are a very big part. Each commissioner sitting on this board is a very big part of this commodity program. Very big part. And I would welcome, and Miss Elaine with no problem, would welcome each and every one of you up there to see what goes on. Now, I know a few of you has been there. Mr. Smiley, you may have been there 2 or 3 times or whatever. Mr. Williams, you might have been there a couple of times, I know. I don't think I've seen you, Mr. Yeager.
Just one time.
You need to come up, and y'all need to get involved with this program. This is not a Carmen McLemore program. This is a people's program for the whole county. Miss Elaine, thanks to her and the volunteers that we have, this is volunteers, 8 or 10, 15, I don't know how many we have. They don't get a dime to help get this program going, and they work their butt off for it. And I get aggravated whenever we get a spear thrown at us for this program. But if you have questions, it's on public records. They did a good review of it, the whole commodity program. Get you a copy, Miss Valerie. Read it, study it, so you'll know.
Well, I look at it an issue of priorities, and I think, number one, Mr. McLemore, you've articulated certainly your passion and the numbers. I'm impressed with doing your homework. The second part of it is, you know, we're talking about saving the library $50,000 in the process. We're talking about paying $13,000 on top of a $100,000 existing part for Parks and Recreation. To me, it's an issue of where you put your priorities. And I've said this before, I'm not going to raise the millage, even though, you know, I'm done sitting here per se, but I'm a Republican, but when it comes down to R&D issues at a local level, it doesn't matter. We've got a lot of people in poverty. We've got a lot of families that need help. You know, when you look at the senior population and that's about 20% of this community, and 80% of that population is on a fixed income of less than $1,000 a month. It's not all suntan oil and flip-flops on this end of the beach. So, Mr. McLemore, I'm fine with what you want to do. I think I would rather take somewhere else than to hit you know, this $19,000. I think Mr. McDaniels is correct. We can always look. You are audited. We need to make sure that it's run correctly and oversight. We're all involved. But I'm not gonna vote to hurt people when it's a minuscule amount.
Motion not to pull it, not to.
I'll second that motion.
All right, we've got a motion, Mr. McLemore. Second, Commissioner Smiley. Any opposition? Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you for coming,
Thank you,
Ms.
ma'am.
Lane. We don't need you.
Okay, I do have a letter of support from Second Harvest.
The vote's done. We're
Okay,
good.
but I'm going to give this to you because
Okay.
they sent it to you.
There's one.
Thank
Give
you,
it to the
gentlemen.
clerk, would you please? Would you give it to the
will.
clerk, please? We only have one copy.
Mr. McLemore, it kills me sometimes to get along and actually agree with you, but you did well. You did
Thank
well.
you. Well, it's very important for me.
It is
to do
important,
that.
and I appreciate you articulating that. All right, let's move on.
Mr. Chairman, next item, county courthouse. The committee is recommending cut $50,000 from the maintenance line item for renovation of the courthouse. It's not complete, but we do have the ceiling tile and the ceiling grid and the paint in storage. And so we have plenty of materials to go ahead and finish the courthouse to get it cleaned up. So we recommend take $50,000 out of that line.
So move, Mr. Chairman.
Motion, Mr. McLemore.
I'll second that. Let's discuss that just a little bit. You know,
Second for discussion, Mr. Yeager.
over the past 3 or 4 years, our maintenance crew has done a heck of a job in that courthouse. They've improved that courthouse tremendously. They do professional work. It's they're to be commended on that. And I think at the end of the day, we have certainly made some needed improvements in tough times and made some expenditures. I also think and I'm for cutting this $50,000. At the end of the day, I want to, at some point, let's take a look at the outside of the courthouse and you know, I've sometimes send my work crew and everything else, but at some point, I want to dress that thing up a little bit and make it look presentable from the outside too. I know that it's difficult to cut the grass and keep the weeds out of it and those type things, but we've done a lot of improvements, and I think at some point, let's take a look at the outside of that thing too.
Well, and this is not to be a red herring that I'm throwing out there. I think it's important that this board has done something over the 8 years that I've served that means more than the roof and certainly the aesthetics inside, which I think we've done. But the security that we voted to put in there and the commitment of the sheriff and the folks that have happened for that, we've made sure that these folks are safe within the process. And so I hope the constitutional officers understand we're trying to go with it, but I support it because I think the bigger issue is that we've made that a safe and protected place to work. We've done everything we can from the roof to the interior. We've made a major commitment to that courthouse over the years. So I'm agreeing. All right, we got a motion and a second. Any opposition? Motion carries 5-0.
Mr. Chairman, next item is unemployment. We recommend take $22,000 out of that line item. This is, the amount of money we had in there was due to the employees that one way or the other lost a job last 2 or 3 years. That's winding down. Recommending taking 22 out.
So move. Second.
Got a motion, Mr. Yeager, second, Mr. McLemore. Any opposition? Motion carries 5-0.
As always, the message board sign is on the list. You could say 3120 by not.
And that's like counting freckles. I don't know why we're looking at that. I'm opposed to that, guys. I mean, we do some good community services. I know somebody has to program, but you know, I've gotten calls from, the sheriff where he's doing educational programs, on fraud and, and theft. We've got spaghetti dinners with the seniors. I mean, I just see it gives us an opportunity for our citizens to bring things more to. So, I mean, I know it's an expense, but I think it's a minor expense. And it tells our community and certain different groups that we care about them, that we'll go out there and help them all we can.
Motion not to cut.
Second.
For discussion.
All right, we got a motion, Mr. McLemore, a second, Mr. Yeager.
For discussion. Now, this is an issue, another issue I've took at heart too now.
Now, you don't get one, but one for a minute.
Well, here's the problem. Here's the problem. And we can help with this. The city of Weeball has agreed to, Joe, if it's okay with the county, they've agreed to actually program that sign for us, actually on the north end, and actually store that sign up there if that'll help defray cost on a little
That
bit.
won't help because we'll never see the sign, Mr. McLemore. We'll have more catfish tournaments in North. I'm teasing.
No, I'm talking about store the sign on city property up there now.
I'm teasing with you. We just got a motion, a second to discontinue. We just need to, I think it's a good thing.
Okay.
All right, any opposition? Motion carries 5-0.
Next item, we mentioned earlier on this morning, 62525, you already voted to allow us to negotiate with the insurance company and lower our coverage on insurance. So that'll save you $62,000. Next item is decreased number of polling places. This will have nothing to do with the election this year, but if the board could vote on one polling place per district for the election 2 years down the road.
Guys, I've pushed this and pushed it. We have 2 weeks of early voting. You've got a small county, one polling place with early voting, with voting by absentee. One per polling place, per district would be enough. We're not cutting it out this election year, but I think it's important that we continue to do the things that we need to do to make sure that we're doing everything as efficiently. If we continue with a number of different polling places, these new machines are going to cost some significant amount of dollars at some point. And so I think, I think it's the right thing to do. I think we need to proceed with that.
Comment on that.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Yeager, I won't support this. I mean, you already know that probably, but here's one thing I will support, and I think it's workable. I don't know the law, but we have in the North Indian County District 1 and 2, we have 2 polling precincts north. All right. We have a county building with 10,000 square feet in it. I don't know why we can't combine that one building for 1 and 2. We use a church up there now for District 2. And it looks to me like you could, on voting day, you could petition that building all for something to combine the 2. I'm workable with that, but as far as shutting down precincts, no, I won't support that.
Wait a minute. Mr. Chairman, may I? In the last election this year, and it was in January, I think, where we had election. Yeah. It's my understanding, I stand to be corrected on this, that we opened the polling precincts in the one, and I'm not singling out, but this is one that come to mind. I think it was in White City. We manned that polling, or the supervisor elections did, and what was it, 3 or 5 people voted? Now, the people and this voting, people choose where they want to live. And that's great. But I look at the people and the new that's just been put into District 3 out in the O Street area. We'll use those. They have to come to town for their food. They have to come to town for their fuel supplies. They have to come to town. Now, with early voting, absentee, every 2 years, I can't see having all these precincts. And I'm behind Mr. Yeager. When he first brought it up, I had a reservation, but after I had time to think on this and look at the bottom line and look at the money that we could save in this county, I said it makes sense. Mr. Yeager, Commissioner Yeager, is correct in this. But these small outlying areas, I don't think they can justify the money that we put in it when they have to come anyway. They have to. And according to the supervisor of elections, probably in this upcoming election, probably 50% of the people will early vote or absentee vote. That's a big number compared to 30 years ago.
Well,
most people went to the polls to vote. It's decreasing more and more.
But where it really hurts at is areas like the Overstreet area out in there that's way out, areas like the Howard's Creek, the little communities is the ones that, I'm going to tell you, they just won't vote. If they don't, they're not going to vote.
I've opposed this from the very beginning. I think that there are some things sometimes that make fiscal sense that we do, and there's sometimes that make more emotional sense. I'm telling you, it's like a beach driving permit. 90% of the people in this community don't drive on the beach, but it is a sacred cow that all of us would protect. The issue here is the same thing here. I've heard people in Highland View say that, they're not going to drive to the beach to vote. They just won't vote. It is more of a cultural autonomy of their individual communities. We're looking at it as Gulf County. A part of it is a logistics challenge and those type things, but I oppose it. I agree 100% that it makes sense. These ADA compliant machines and things that we're talking about doing, and computer screens and all that stuff that you're down the road, you're exactly right. But I feel that people want the autonomy of their own communities. They feel White City, they see Overstreet, you know, I mean, they just want it. So anyway, let's somebody make a motion.
Well, I say that we proceed with it. It's not going to affect this election. It's the right thing to do. They have 2 weeks to vote, and, you know, change is the biggest thing. I understand what you're saying about, it's what I've been doing for all my life, is voting at the fire department, or voting here, or voting there. It's the right thing to do at the end of the day to save the taxpayers' dollars. I support it, and I say I'll make the motion that we proceed with this.
All right, we got a motion, Commissioner Yeager.
Second, Mr. Chairman.
We got a second, Mr. McDaniels. Any opposition?
Yes.
I oppose. Motion passes 3-2.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, next item, fuel decreases. This was May 22nd when we met on this, and Joe is here, and I want to look at Joe again. We think we can cut $22,000 out of fuel. And Joe, do you see anything different now?
Yes, sir. When that was made up, we were into a kind of a down cycle in our work. Anytime anybody says they want to cut fuel out of Public Works, I start to cringe because I don't know what's coming up. But I do know that we got grass cutting all summer long. We have increased activity all summer long. $22,000 is not a heck of a lot. And if you cut it in fuel, how are you going to get it back?
Can I answer that?
Yes, sir.
We can do, Mr. Daniel, Mr. Joe, and I appreciate you working with the board like this, because I think this has been very helpful for us making choices like this. If you need it, you come to the podium and ask for it, just like your mechanical problems, your breakdowns that you've had. You came to the podium. We give it to you. So I think that we could put this maybe in the same line with your fuel costs. You know, if you get into a bind, you come to the podium and ask us. Now, am I on the right track with this, Joe?
If that's the way y'all want it, let me throw something out here. Y'all keep cutting Public Works. You've been cutting Public Works for several years now. And we're doing the same thing we're doing we did last year, a year before that, and the year before that. If you gave us the same amount, we would still be behind the curve, because you've never taken in inflation. And inflation has run anywhere from 7 to 11% in the last 4 years. When your daddy had the money talk with you, he probably explained that to you, okay? But y'all have been cutting Public Works. The county hasn't shrunk. The county's same size, we're doing the same thing over and over and over again. I just want to throw that out there one last time. I'm only going to be here a couple more years, so you only have to listen to me a couple more years. But we can't keep doing the same thing that we did in all the prior years and expect to be able to do it in the same way. Okay, so however y'all want to handle it, y'all the bosses, I'll do whatever you say. But when it comes down to where the dollars are going to come from, if the pot's empty, there's no place to get it.
Well, and I think it's a slippery slope, guys, too, in the fact that I understand what Mr. McLemore is saying, is that if we do get into a budget crisis, come back and, find those out of reserve or something. But the bottom line is that's a dangerous way to manage, because we'll set precedents of going back to the pot and trying to, it fixes our ability to manage our budgets. But anyway, what are the wishes of the board?
Can I say something?
Yes, sir.
Our runs are increasing, and we can't just park an ambulance over to the side, we've got to respond to it. So our fuel bill is also increasing. Right now, we almost through with our fuel budget line item. So we probably gonna go in the red with it this year to start with.
I still think, Jim, that this is an item that Mr. Danford, it's a line item, it's fuel cost. He knows if he gets in the red, and all he has to do is let us know. I don't think it's hard, gentlemen, with this.
So your motion is to delete that 22,000?
Support it.
So you want to keep it in there?
No, I'm gonna delete it, yeah. Yeah, get me right.
I think your motion is to take it out, and if he's in trouble, then to come back before the board.
Absolutely. That's
All right, Mr. Chairman, let me interject here. Mr. Danford, with the fuel, could we save, looking at the money line. Right now, we're in the process of putting in a new public works building over on this side here behind us. We do not have a fuel site there. What I'm getting at is this: if we had a good fueling depot over there, could you, when you buy fuel now, gas, and we'll just call it fuel, gas, and diesel, you get any discount on it? If we could volume buy, say we had this storage capacity for 10,000 gallons of diesel and 10,000, and we could buy truckload and we could bid it with a different wear oil gander, could we make a savings there? You don't have fuel. If we have an hurricane come up this year, and hopefully we don't, but are you limited?
We're limited to getting 1,000 gallons of each every time we order, and they make several.
You're restricted to 1,000 gallons due to you don't have the capacity to house it.
No, sir. Now, I've been wanting a decent fueling depot for many, many years, but they're not cheap.
Oh, no.
We're talking in excess of $100,000 now, and most of that cost is based upon the price of steel going up. A double-walled steel tank is a lot of weight, and the price of steel has increased that much. Would we ever make enough back to pay for it? No. Not in the time I'm gonna be here, and probably not in the time any of y'all are gonna be here. That's a lot of money. Arguing for it, it gives us a cushion. And it also does give us the opportunity to say to Gander or whoever else, we have capacity for 8,000 gallons. What can you give us for it? What can we pay for it? And let them bid against each other. I like competition.
We having to get our fuel from a retail resource also because the county doesn't have enough storage for fuel for us. So it would make a difference too on what we're doing.
Where do you buy, where do you get from the city of Weewalt, or do you buy local?
From Gander Buck over here on.
Over here, so you're purchasing over here, you're not getting any fuel.
They don't have enough to store for themselves.
All right, we had I think I clarified Mr. McLemore's motion that he wants. Are you seconding that motion?
I will, yes.
Okay,
I'll
we got a
second
second. Any opposition to the motion? Motion carries 5-0. All right, take that.
Next item, Hunterville Community Center. The committee is recommending that you decrease that budget by $4,500.
Yep. Comment on that, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Have we pretty much got that thing, Lynn, now equaled out?
Yes,
with
sir,
our
that
rentals?
was my recommendation,
Okay.
for utility costs in that
Okay.
savings line
We're
item.
it's pretty much paying for itself as far as expenses and maintenance. Okay, so moved.
Got a motion, Mr. McLemore?
Second, Mr. Chairman.
Second, Mr. McDaniels. Any opposition? Motion carries 5-0.
Mr. Chair, next item doesn't add or take from your budget, but it is a recommendation from me to you and from the Budget Review Committee to you. Restrict the use of the radio 1250 moving violation surcharge fund to use on the tower and anything to do with the two towers, the one in Weewalt at the courthouse, the one in Port St. Joe at the courthouse. We have money that we get through the 1250 moving violation surcharge fund, and it's bled off weekly and monthly. And when we get ready to sandblast the towers and paint the towers and tension the guide wires and do the wind load analysis on the towers, we'll have no money to do it. And my recommendation is restrict the use of that money for those towers. And then it's something you can always visit later if that's not working, if you see it's kind of reason. But it wouldn't pay for anything unless it's what we do have lightning hit the towers and repeaters get burned up. Those kind of things can still be paid from it. But I would recommend to use that on those towers because otherwise it's coming up time again. We've got to maintain those.
All right, wishes of the board?
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Motion, Mr. Yeager.
Second.
Second, Commissioner Smiley.
Question.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Butler, or maybe the clerk over here. On these towers, are we collecting any money from the people that use these towers besides Gulf County?
Quick answer is no. There is one vendor, I know at least one vendor that should be paying that doesn't pay like that vendor should pay. So I think you're probably not getting anything.
Good question. Go get it.
Here it is. Pay up or fetch your antenna on back. That's money. I mean, why should we be paying? I'll just grab somebody out of the sky for Bay County using our tower, and they're not,
If we could enlist the attorney to help us out on that, we can send a letter.
Okay.
Why don't you amend the motion in a second, and we'll put that on there.
So move me. I'll amend the motion, Mr. Chairman.
Are you comfortable with that? All right.
Yes.
Any opposition? Motion carries 5-0.
Okay, the next item down at the bottom is due with the St. Joe Fire Control District. And before we talk those numbers, I'm adding subtraction here. It looks like you have cut either added back revenue or either cut out $222,000 worth this morning. That would be attributable to the 5.7 millage rate. The St. Joe Fire Control District will not be, that's in addition to. The committee's recommendation is to go down to a quarter mil, which will save you $135,000 tax in the St. Joe Fire Control District.
Wishes of the board?
I think we've cut it to 0.4 over the years. We used to just leave it at 0.5. It was my recommendation a couple of years ago. Let's cut it to 4. I don't know that I'm comfortable with cutting it another one or not. I'll defer to the board.
I'm not touching these fire departments. Gentlemen, y'all do what you need to do. They do us a good
Why
job.
don't we do this? Why don't we, I know we're, and I'm not kicking this down the road, but tabling this, I'd like for us to take basically a 5-minute break, confer exactly where we're at. You know, I've said from the outset that this board needs to be committed to not raising the millage and see where we actually are with some kind of specific target and ongoing instruction. I know we've got a little bit of time, but why don't we take a 5-minute break? Let's confer with the clerk, make sure that we're right with the numbers that Mr. Butler just outlined, and talk about where we need to go with this anticipated cut. We have time to do that?
Yeah, I think so. He's got one more item on there that we can address. He's got the Firemen's Association, $8,000. That's been in there forever. I don't know. I think they've used it one time. I'm all for cutting that particular 8,000 line item to save the taxpayers that particular one.
That was basically to maintain the fire trainer at the time.
We don't have it anymore.
We're not maintaining it anymore.
Right.
It's not an issue to let that go.
So move to cut that 8,000.
All right, motion, Mr. Yeager.
Second.
Second, Mr. McDaniels. Any opposition? Motion carries
Yes.
motion carries 4-1.
He's probably got the totals. You know, we didn't bring the computer and because this
Okay,
is
well,
my
let's just
budget
take
hearing.
5 minutes and confer, make sure everybody's good with the math, and then we'll go. I need a motion to,
Motion, Mr. Chairman.
5-minute break. Commissioner. All right, let's call this meeting back to order. I talked with Don during the break. It looks like we've cut $222,970 to keep the balanced budget and try to stay at the same millage rate, which is my objective. We need to look at an additional $334,451. Mr. Butler, do you have any comment regarding where we are?
No, we have a running spreadsheet. Lynn is working, she's been working on it. We'll plug these numbers in, and at a future budget meeting, you can see where we are, but any direction. Now, this all rough numbers, because we have, right now, today, we have no clue about the amount of cash carry forward that's going to be available, because every penny we don't spend in this year's budget is a penny that goes toward next year's budget. It would help out on taxes. So this is really rough numbers, but the $300,000+ is a correct range. And we'll do all these things that we've already checked off that you already agreed to. We'll make contact with Bay County, Mexico Beach, Bay Ambulance, and those kind of things. We're going to get that part started. And there's some things that may help out too when Houston comes back with EMS fees for your consideration of what the fees could be. That could help this number out also.
All right. Anyone from the public want to discuss any of the items that we've gone over? Any suggestions, ideas? Okay. Any other comments from the board?
We got this issue on this fire control.
I thought we were just gonna table.
Yeah, that was I thought it was
I thought we
table
were just
it.
gonna table it and come back to it.
Yeah.
All right, we probably need to go ahead, Mr. Butler, if you will, start looking at the next budget meeting. I know that we've got FAC stuff coming up and that kind of stuff, but particularly with the waste management, and there's some pending issues that we talked about. Can you get with the board as soon as possible and let's schedule another hearing so we can keep popping along?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, can I say one other thing? We don't ever talk about, in general, the last 4 years, we've talked about how in the world do we cut this budget and how in the world do we save $1 and those kind of things. And we're working with less people and, as Joe says, less money and all these kinds of things. We've went for a number of years and we've had a discussion each year about a procurement position. Somebody in staff, because obviously Don doesn't have time, Michael doesn't have time, we don't have anybody that's got the time to actually look at procurement and put some policies in place on how we do procure. Having somebody that looks over the contracts over the past, few years, we've saw that we've, somehow overlooked some of the contracts and the extensions and those type things. At the end of the day, I think that person, we talked about this at this board before, could save more than what that position's going to cost. And, I don't know when the time is, but I think at some point we got to look at a procurement position so we've got somebody that's overlooking. We've got departments that buy paper separately. We've got all the constitutional officers that probably buy all their stuff separately. If we had somebody procurement that would work not only with our departments, but also would work with the constitutional officers about how do we procure goods and services that will do it at a cheaper rate and doing it together. I don't even know if that person couldn't also engage the school boards, the cities, and figure out a little bit better way of procuring goods and services. And, I just think that at some point we need to look at that, and this budget year may be the one. I think at the end of the day, we got to see where we're at once we get through, but that's a position that we've talked about every year. And I think at some point we got to say, guys, this is something that we've got to do. And I just want to throw that out and see what the board thinks about it.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Yeager, appreciate you bringing that up, and I think it's a great suggestion, something that still burns me as a fact out here, and I brought it up numerous times, this America's ditch. How in the world did somebody just, before I got on board, but we had to cough out $200,000+ for pipe. Why wasn't the contractor, was he bonded? Did he have any insurance? See, that we should have never went there. That should have never came back on the taxpayers. And what you're suggesting would probably and more than likely eliminate. I mean, that's just one, a big item that comes to my mind. There's numerous small ones in purchasing, deal with certain vendors, try to get the price down, try to save accountability. We got a lot of gray areas that we still need to polish up on. We could save a lot of money by just simply some good sound management and put the people in the right place to do that. But I just wanted to, that's all, Mr. Chairman.
I agree with
comment
him, Commissioner
Mr.
Yeager. I mean,
Commissioner Yeager.
when you start talking about efficiencies and effective modeling, the procurement, the contracts, the economies of scale, all the things that we've talked about historically over the years. We've talked about a chief financial officer. We've talked about a sort of a joint IT chief financial officer. But I think where we are at this point is that, when we've cut 40% of the budget over the last couple of years, that's what you're down to. It is the technical refining. It's logistics management with our trucks that you talk about and the fuel, savings when we went to 4-day-a-week versus 5, seeing those modeling come through so we can make better decisions, on trip management, like I said, logistics, fleet management, all the things that we're talking about. So I'm not opposed to that. Did you have something?
Yes, I think the only thing that I would have question is, if the employee can actually save his salary or whatever, pay his salary and save us money, gentlemen, it's a win-win for us, in my mind.
Mr. Yeager, why don't you come with the next budget meeting? Why don't you get with Mr. Butler and talk about what kind of role that person would do more specifically.
Okay.
How those dollars would be captured, particular savings, so that we can look at that.
Okay, I will.
All right, anybody else from the public? Okay, a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
All right, we'll re-adjourn in 20 minutes for the adjourn.
Gotta have
20
another.
minutes.
Make some fresh coffee. There you go.